Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for taking time out of your day, wherever it is. Could be morning, could be mid-afternoon, as Pat likes to correct me, or if you're over here in the original Brexited country, it's evening. My name is Richard Malik. I'm the director of product strategy here over at Zimperium. To my proverbial left, I have Pat. Pat, say hello to the beautiful people.
Hey, hello everyone.
What do you do for us, Pat?
Nice and simple. I look after solution engineering. Been with Zimperium for 5 years, been working with many partners and customers in the region across Asia Pacific. I'm based out of Singapore.
Excellent. And as if you haven't been able to tell by my bad jokes, I am not based out of Singapore. I'm based out of the Americas. But please do not hold that against me. I'm here to support you. If any of you have any questions throughout this whole presentation, please do not hesitate to throw them to the Q&A box or the chat box. We will answer them as best as we can. If we don't have the answer, we will follow up with you. I promise you that's something we're very good at. This is Beware the Phone Spy, how spyware threatens your enterprise data. Let's get started. First, I want to cover what is spyware. We keep hearing this phrase here and there. It's typically, focused on the consumer grade aspect of malware. Spyware is a privacy invading software. It's often disguised as benign or common applications, and it's used in corporate or personal spying campaigns. Now, a lot of spyware is commercially available. There's a lot of solutions that are out there that you can go and buy. Now, when I say commercially available, that doesn't just mean, go onto Amazon or eBay and buy a spyware. You can Google it and you can find some, but you can also find some on the dark web. And it's just examples of it everywhere. Now, spyware does not matter the device. It could be on traditional endpoint or on a mobile phone. The idea is it's going to infiltrate the victim's device and use increased permissions to access data and take over control of that device. Now, on the mobile device within iOS and Android, it relies on users enabling a lot of permissions for the most part. We do see some examples where it's taking advantage of vulnerabilities and exploits. We'll talk about those here in a little bit. But overall, most of them that we see are definitely user enabled, just because users are trained to click yes on everything, and they're there to steal the data. They're there to steal the data, the phone, the photos, the GPS locations, communications, screenshots. They can turn on cameras, they can turn on microphones, they can take all that and transmit off to the command and control server, as well as opening enterprises up to data breaches. There was something that one of our researchers said recently. I was just telling Pat about this. It's really, I think, something that sets the tone of this. PhoneSpy and other spyware that is available, it may be commercially focused, as in consumers, it's going to be targeting individuals. But in the day and age of a BYOD environment where our personal devices are connected into an enterprise, a consumer-focused threat is an enterprise-focused threat. There is no gray line anymore. The lines are connected. And unfortunately, that exists for us today. So spyware, once installed, all data on and connected to that device is at risk. It doesn't matter if you're using two-factor authentication, because guess what? They can see that. They can see the screens. They can start seeing the codes. They can also see all the comms and reroute it. It gets pretty scary. Anything you want to add to that one, Vic?
No, Richard. That's good.
Awesome. I love this quote from Sun Tzu. There is no place where espionage is not possible. And that's really, really true as we talk about the BYOD and corporate-owned devices that exist. Where do these devices go? These devices are going with us into the boardrooms, into private meetings, into our homes. These devices do not leave our side. They are transmitting data. They're always connected. They have microphones and they have cameras. They are literally walking espionage devices if the code is falling into the wrong hands. And in the case of spyware, PhoneSpy, and other spyware campaigns that we have seen, that's the kind of data that these organizations are taking. They're looking for critical espionage information. They're looking for the secret data. They're looking for private information to use against an employee or a business, or even just steal the data directly from the business, whatever it might be. These tools that are being sold on the commercial markets and the black market are being used to steal all data. And when I say it's commercially available, I mean, it is everywhere. These are 3 screenshots that I took just today. We have on the left, the far left, We have from GitHub, Spyware for Android, all commercially available. Anybody can go in there and download it. Now, what's great is that this is for educational purposes only, as in this is to help you train and understand what spyware can do. But we've seen what happens when code that has been proof of concept, what happens when it falls into the hands of the wrong people. We also see that over here with the iPhone. And then on the far right, if you just type in best spyware. Now, spyware can be stalkerware. It can be used for parental tracking. It can be used for employee tracking. That's what a lot of people are looking at this kind of software for. They're not advertising it for nefarious purposes, of course, because that would be illegal. So they put it into this idea that you're able to keep track of your children, keep track of your employees, keep track of, in-laws, whatever it might be. And that's where you have this list of spyware that is commercially available. Now, Pat, I know you have a thought on this too.
Yeah, so I think that's really, I think it's very telling, right? You can see there's a lot of freely available spyware out there. But I think the more important thing is when we talk to a lot of the enterprises, they kind of always sort of, talk about this notion of, hey, I have my device kind of locked down, it's managed, right? On the Android world, right? A lot of our enterprise customers are adopting Android Enterprise, right? As a partition on the personal device. So BYOD in one personal side, and all the work activity happens on the work side, right? But if you look at some of the spywares that we, the capability of the spyware, turning on the microphone, accessing camera, there's only one camera on the device, right, Richard? So ultimately, when something gets onto the device, your device is not only compromised, it also gets, ability to get into the work side, right? So I think that, it's not so much a, hey, it looks like an Android malware that, we probably can pick up. Most of the antivirus solution will go out and say, hey, let me just update the database, the signature, and I know what to look for. But what happens for some of these are actually being disguised, and no one can really tell what it's actually doing, right, Richard? So I think that's a thing that people are more and more aware and concerned about.
Yeah. And, it's really concerning is that ultimately it's just like Legos, right? This screen right here represents already pre-assembled Legos. But if you want to build your own Lego, which we're going to get into why this is relevant, that idea is relevant. If you want to build your own Lego, you can go and pick and choose the features that you like out of these examples, out of these Git examples, and share them to the world. You could build your own version. And that's ultimately what we're running into, because I've said it before a couple of times in our past webinars, malicious actors are not writing brand new code traditionally. There's no reason to. They're just looking at old examples of vulnerabilities, old examples of exploitable code, or publicly available Git repositories like this, and assembling something new in a brand new way that most traditional security providers have not seen before. And that goes for 95% of the malware that we see in both the traditional markets and the phone markets. And that idea is what continues to drive the numbers up of the amount of malware. 35 million pieces of malware discovered every single year for mobile phones alone. And they're not writing 350 million different samples. It's just obfuscated in a brand new way, repacked in a different way. This piece is pulled in from here. This piece is pulled in here. And what we see here are ingredients lists. We see the Legos that people can pick and choose from. They can put it into their own spyware. They can put it into a malicious, a fake application and submit it out to the Play Store or the iOS store in hopes that you, the victim, or you, your employees, or your customers download it. And that's where it gets kind of concerning. We heard about this a couple months ago. Still in the news, actually, is the Pegasus spyware. Now, Pegasus spyware is very different. We want to give credit where credit is due. This is a novel spyware campaign using a zero-day exploit and zero-click vulnerability to target over 50,000 journalists, activists, and legal professionals from over 50 countries. Now, we're seeing more and more data released about this month over month. It just seems more countries are coming out and saying this person was targeted, or this activist, or this politician. The French president, I think, or prime minister, I can't remember. I'm American schools, sorry. The French leader was targeted by this campaign. We see a lot of dignitaries out of Latin America, see a lot of dignitaries out of
Yeah. In Taiwan, I think there was some news around government. Yeah. So definitely has been areas of interest from the customers here, Richard. And it just shows again, right? It's not just the Android perception is that it's easier, right? There's also the iOS platform, and a lot of these spywares. This is a sophisticated version, as you mentioned. There are actually versions that doesn't actually need all these zero-day expensive, right, technique. You simply just trick the user to accept the permission, and that's it. Game over.
I think it's also it's very telling of how our industry works. And we are guilty of this. Let's have a little humble moment as we talk about this. We typically will cover malware and then we'll move on. Pegasus was covered 4 months ago. Pegasus still exists today. Pegasus is still being used to target victims, to spy on people that a government or an institution does not like. It is still out there. It's still available to be purchased by an organization. And the same is to be said with a lot of malware. Even after it's been discovered, a lot of it will continue on. And Pegasus, for example, is just one solution that's available on the commercial market for governments and agencies and very powerful organizations to purchase from a fully supported organization out of multiple countries. Pegasus is just the one that got caught. And that's what we have to think about. This is the one that we know about. What about the ones we don't know about? What about the ones that aren't publicly out there? The ones that are hiding in plain sight, like PhoneSpy that we're about to talk about. So let's kind of dive into PhoneSpy real quick. We're going to do this Zimperium zLab threat breakdown. I'm going to pass it over to Pat. Now, I want to preface one thing. We discovered something this morning. I guess it was Monday morning for y'all. As of Sunday evening, the command and control server for PhoneSpy was active. So when we would turn on the malware and we would test it against the machine, all the screens would pop up, all the social engineering attempts would pop up, and I'll go through what it would do. When we went to record our demo, the command and control server had been taken down. So what that means for the thousands upon thousands of victims, luckily, their data is no longer being stolen. We'll talk about the data that's been stolen from those devices. But the command and control server is completely taken down. We don't have any more details that we can share at this time, but that's going to change the video demo that we have for you. But overall, I think it still kind of tells a story of how the user gets tricked into enabling it. Am I correct on that, Pat?
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Let's roll the camera. So I have just a normal device, and you can see here when the malware is loaded, just like any other application, right? When the user tap on the app, the first thing they're gonna get asked is basically accept this permission, right? And what happened just then?
That was my fault.
Oh, okay. So basically, pretty much everything that you have access to or you're given away at this point, right? When you say continue and okay, the application will never ask you again. And this is the page actually, if the command and control server was running, I think Richard, you actually show a KakaoTalk logging prompt, right? Yeah. So that's a social engineering, and KakaoTalk is a very well-known Korean, instant messenger application. And this spyware, if you guys have read the blog, is actually targeting at Korean citizens, right? So this is really about social engineering, understand what the user base they are targeting and showing them something similar, right? So unfortunately, this is not a pretty screen, but we can show that later on.
I don't know why it keeps doing that. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, Richard, I think we're good. So I think the thing to remember is, right, how many times does people not look at the permission and just say, okay, and then move on, right? Yeah. And I think the other thing you need to remember is as soon as you say yes, the application will never ask you again, because you actually open the door and give the keys to your house, right, to the app, and the app can basically do everything.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into that a little bit more now. PhoneSpy Victims, as Pat said, specifically targeted South Korean residents. We don't have much more information on that, but we are, based on the intel that we were able to gather, able to determine that all the victims were within the border of the South Korean country of South Korea, Republic of Korea. Now, unlike other spyware campaigns that we have covered that have taken advantage of vulnerabilities on the device, PhoneSpy hid in plain sight. It disguised itself as a regular application. We see some of the icons right here, the nine of the icons, ranging in purposes from yoga to watching TVs and videos and browsing photos. Now, in reality, most of the applications actually didn't work. The only ones that we found that worked, of the 23 that we discovered, were the photo viewers, because it's very easy code to distribute and to build into an application. But in reality, the applications themselves were stealing data, messages, images, remote communications. The victims were broadcasting their private information to malicious actors with zero indication that anything was amiss. As you just saw in that little video, once those permissions were enabled, the permissions were enabled. You didn't have to do it again. Now, where it got even crazier was the capability on the back end. The code showed that once the application was installed, the malicious actors had the ability to then hide the application from the menu, so they can make it look like it disappeared. Now, how many of us have downloaded an application? I did it today. Downloaded an application, didn't work on my iPhone, so I just erased it. But I didn't erase it right away. I just went back and found another application that did what I was looking for it to do. And I left that one sitting on my device. And I work in security. I literally do this research. And I still did that myself. Now, I might be biased. I have Zips installed on my iPhone, but that is still one of those ideas that how many of us just accept, oh, the app didn't work, I'll find another version. Or, oh, the app disappeared. Maybe I erased it. We don't always keep up with that. On average, you have 80 to 100 applications installed on your device. Now, PhoneSpy disguised itself as the various lifestyle apps targeting the Korean-speaking users. It was most likely distributed through web traffic redirection or social engineering, as it was not detected in any Android stores. I mean, either OEM or third party. That's a big thing. So that's why the net of this was in the thousands upon thousands instead of the tens to millions. Now, after installation, the application would request those permissions, open up a phishing page that imitate the login page for Kakao Talk. Am I saying that properly? Yep. To steal the credentials, because ultimately they were looking to steal as much information as possible. PhoneSpy is an example of how malicious applications can disguise their true intent. When installed, that left corporate and personal device data at risk. And with mobile devices playing such a critical role in our everyday, my personal device is connected to my corporate information, especially as we're all distributed and working around the world. It's no surprise that a spyware campaign like this is on the rise. I really truly believe that we're going to see a lot more next year.
And is this one of them, right, Richard?
Yeah, just one of them. Oh yeah. I mean, we just went on GitHub. We saw, just 10 right there. There's 300 other pages that we could have looked at. Now, PhoneSpy attack vectors, as I said, it was not distributed through an app store. It was distributed through phishing and social engineering. And it would pop up a screen like this this is the great app. Hopefully you were connecting with somebody, a little chat app, but ultimately what was happening on the back end, it was stealing your photos, logging your keystrokes, stealing cookies, your GPS information, wallet information, communications, both email, SMS, Telegram, WhatsApp, WeChat, all of them, email and profile data. They were able to get full information about your device, about you, without you ever knowing. Now, we discovered 23 applications targeting South Korean citizens and infecting thousands with the spyware campaign. These malicious apps were designed to run silently in the background and never rose any suspicion. Now, we believe that the malicious actors responsible for PhoneSpy have gathered significant amounts of data, both personal and corporate, on their victims, including that private information and photos. Ooh, I'm having a little backlash. I'm going to mute you real quick. There you go. Sorry about that little technical difficulty. Now, the mobile application poses a threat to Android devices by functioning as an advanced remote access Trojan, or RAT, that receives and executes commands to collect and exfiltrate a wide variety of data. And I'm going to go over just a small list. We've got the big list here in a second. Complete list of all your installed applications. And that means even if you have a security application there, basic security application, like somebody that, we won't mention, it could uninstall that. It could steal your credentials, monitor your GPS, your communications, turn on your microphone, turn on your cameras, and it could access all that and control that and download all that and ultimately conceal its presence. Now, upon infection, it transmitted its accurate GPS data down to the actual street that you were on, shared photos and communications. All that data was immediately started to be uploaded. So, and you never knew, the victims never knew. Now, similar to other spyware, we have seen the data stolen from these devices could be used for personal and corporate blackmail and espionage. Think about that. How much data is on your personal device that's private for your company? Where has your device been in those boardrooms, in those private meetings that a conversation could have been recorded? The malicious actors could even collect all the information that they need, download any of the stolen material, and gather intelligence for nefarious purposes. If any of that information got out into the public, who knows what could have happened. As for a full list of PhoneSpy's capabilities, I'm not going to read all this because it's a lot. Yeah. But based off the code, we're able to see this is a very aggressive, commercially available malware. Now, we talked about the Legos. We talked about the ideas of pulling bits and pieces of malware that works. PhoneSpy is not novel. As a matter of fact, in everything that we have seen, PhoneSpy is literally a combination of features of spyware that has existed since 2015 in targeted Android devices. It's just a new version. Somebody updated it with a brand new skin and brand new features. But some of that core functionality has existed for over 7 years. Credit is due where credit is due. Malwarebytes discovered this in 2015, the first variation of it. And again, as I said, once it's discovered, it doesn't go away. The code is out there forever. The code is out there forever for someone to pick and choose and grab from and assemble their piece. And PhoneSpy is just the latest version of that original piece. I want you as the audience to look at this list and think, if any two of those features were installed on an application that was installed on a BYOD or commercial grade phone on your network, or if it infiltrated an enterprise application that you were relying on, how much data would the attackers get? This is not just about preventing malware. This is about preventing bad code, malicious code from targeting your enterprise devices and your enterprise applications, because they exist. On average, there are 10 enterprise or business-focused applications on every BYOD device. If any of this was able to grab that data, how much of your critical corporate data would be gone? That's why spyware is so scary.
Yeah. So Richard, I like the point you mentioned about not just the devices, the apps, right? So I know many of the attendees today probably are either building mobile application. So it's basically a mobile economy, right, in our region. So imagine a spyware like this running on the device where your mobile banking application, mobile payment, right, shopping application is running. Essentially, not only they know where you live, they know what you're buying, they also can get customer details credential. If there is OTP token, right, for transaction confirmation, the spyware can either read the SMS, delete the SMS, send SMS. Also, they can see what's on the screen, right, on the user's screen. So it's really pervasive and is invisible. Right? So I think two things I wanted to call out here from BYOD use case, protecting these devices and company data, but also don't forget the application that you are building. Your device, your application is probably checking for root and jailbreak only. Are you looking at the new layer or new attack vector, right, of these malwares?
Or if you're licensing out an application that you're building and those organizations are using publicly available code, how do you know that that code hasn't been compromised? Areas like that is where the concern is coming. You have leaky buckets, leaky applications where credentials are being stolen, APIs are being hard coded in, and organizations are able to steal that. The list can go on and on and on, and the risk that an organization puts themselves at if they have a poorly designed application. But let's kind of get back into it. We want to show, let's brag a little bit about ourselves. How about we do that, Pat?
Yeah, let's do that. So here we are doing a same scenario, but with the Zimperium software or mobile security solution installed, right? So you can see we have identified some risks on the device. It's not running the latest version of Android. Who does, right? In reality, there's no malware on the device. The network is actually good, right? There's just some risk. Now we're going to install the PhoneSpy malware onto the device, right? As you can see, as soon as the app is installed, right, within a couple of seconds, actually, yeah, it should be coming up. But what the security solution, what Zips would do, is we will detect immediately when the app is installed, and we actually generated 2 events. Actually, can you pause this a little bit? Actually, yeah, that's fine. You can pause here. That's okay. So you can see within the within a few seconds after the application is installed on the device, it actually triggers our app to do the scanning. And we actually scan the application to know that this application was not installed officially from the Google Store. So that's actually, Richard, you can play on. I'll tell you to pause the screen a little bit. Okay. You can see this application is actually suspicious. It's actually a spyware category, right? So we detected that. And we detected also this app is actually not officially from the Google store, right? So there's 2 things that we actually trigger that give you a really good indicator. This information will be beneficial for the security team, the forensic team, right? And you can see more details over here. One thing I want to call out, right, right now is, Richard, can you pause the screen for me, please? While all this is happening, the device is actually in the airplane mode, right? One of the things I wanted to sort of focus your attention is the malware we are fighting today, right? This is just one of them, right? So there could be another one. There could be one that's running on your device or your user's device. How would you ever find out, right? If you're relying on signature-based solution that is always going to be checking whether there's a database, I've seen this before, it's not going to be effective. And we show the demo to you to show that this is actually offline in the disconnected state while the attack can happen, but we are still able to protect your user, alert the user, and also take certain action, right, if required. Richard, do you have any?
Nope. Okay. I just wish I could press play without it.
Yeah, now the Google stuff is. So in the end, we actually follow the workflow. You can see here, we identify the issue. So the user will be prompt, right, to recommend to reinstall remove the application. And as soon as the user do that, you see that the application, the status of the device goes back to green, right? And the device is now back in the protected mode, right? If you are in a organization, right, in the enterprise where you have other management tool, right, we can actually integrate with those systems and then block the user from accessing your corporate email. So now we're going to just go into the Zips app, right? We're going to just tap on the uninstall button because we offer that as part of the security features, and then you go back and you can see now the device is in a secure, protected state. Yeah. So that's kind of the very simple overview, and we do everything in the offline mode.
Now, what I'm super excited about, Pat, is explaining how we do it in the offline mode, because that to me is, well, now it wants to play again. There we go. That to me is what the bread and butter exists. It's one thing to have knowledge that these threats exist. That's another thing to be bringing advanced security to your infrastructure, to your enterprise. I have been in this space for over 10 years. I have been talking about machine learning and artificial intelligence, prevention-based security on traditional endpoints up until about a year ago almost, when I joined here at Zimperium. And what amazes me is that this phone right here, my personal device, has the same hard drive space, RAM, 4K monitor as my personal laptop. But it doesn't, at least before I joined here, have the same security that it did. It didn't have the same artificial intelligence, next generation, advanced prevention. This is not signatures, is it, Pat?
No, no.
Talk
This
about
is
that.
yeah. So yeah, Richard, that's a great point. I think a lot of people, when we talk about mobile security, right, the immediate response is that, oh, antivirus. I can just go and download a free one and it will do the job, right? So I think you share some example previously about the different attack vectors, all the techniques, things the application can do. So Zimperium as a platform is designed from the ground up, right? Leveraging machine learning behavioral anomaly detection. So we can actually look at it, the applications and the mobile device behavior, and understand whether compromises or indicators have been triggered, right? So just remember this, right? Even when we don't pick up this application as malware, right? We actually have other controls in place, right? If this malware or this application tries to attack the vulnerability of the OS, right? We will trigger a set of different events as well. And if this particular application is purely just abusing privacies and security concern, our app analysis engine, which is a very powerful engine that analyzes application, essentially think about it as like a pen testing. You take the app that you have installed on your phone, we will pen test the application and tell you what the application is capable of doing, whether it's leaking data, whether it's following the best practice, right? Potentially even to the point, right, to a company that I don't like my application communicate with certain country, right? If the apps are doing that, I want to flag them, right? So the mobile threat defense platform from Zimperium covers all the different pieces that is critical to really secure the mobile endpoint and mobile apps.
Yeah, and that's what you're seeing right here. We're providing that kind of coverage across Android, iOS, Chrome OS, and all delivering it up into one cloud native console. Now that console can also be integrated into your SIM, into your security consoles of choice. We have a wide range of established integrations, as well as an open API and a very robust API that will allow you to get this data into the SOC analysts or the IT analysts that are working with you. And the same kind of data can be pulled if you have this software, this core functionality software installed inside your application through Maps. Right now, we're talking about Zips, which is the endpoint protection, but Maps as well, right, Pat? You can have that kind of visibility into where your applications are installed on your customers' devices.
Yeah, absolutely. So in fact, we have some of the large bank in the Asia region that has adopted the solution, right? So I think one of the concern is that they actually came to us and they say, hey, we have regulatory requirement from the Reserve Bank, right? Mandatory to comply with the level of device risk. But then they also wanted to know, right, whether malware is installed on the device, whether applications are being, interrogated or screenshots being taken, key loggers being, activated. So all these advanced kind of attack technique that you're seeing in the, PhoneSpy can also be applied to or target at your app, right, that you built. So that's where the mobile application security portfolio we have. Maybe Richard, you can go to the next slide. We have a little thing. There we go. Right. So so we talked about Zips, which is the endpoint security app that's on the left-hand side, and then we have the app security platform that is also designed purely focused on mobile, so we can protect your iOS application, Android application. Essentially embed our machine learning engine. Imagine put that sensor into your banking or your consumer-facing app, and then all of a sudden provides this shield and protection. So you have visibility, right, around how many people are running with infected malware, how many devices are compromised, how many spywares are installed, and now enables your application to decide, right? Do I want to allow the user to perform the transaction, or do I want to actually shut down and then report that event to a fraud team, right? So that's the kind of use cases that you can now empower your application to do.
I want to highlight one thing while everyone is still with us. We are a privacy-focused security company. All that capability that we just talked about, both with the on-device protection through Zips and the in-app protection through Maps, is privacy-focused. We are not collecting private information. We are not spyware. We're not a mobile device management solution. We are mobile threat defense. Our focus right now, our focus from the whole start, has been advanced security for the endpoint and application without the need of that private information. All we care about is the application itself. Is it good? Is it bad? Based off the parameters that our machine learning is understanding. We're not collecting GPS information. We're not collecting personal information. We're not looking at browsing history. We're not looking at messages. none of that matters to us. Even with our phishing protection, what we're looking at is the actual website that's attempting to be going to. Once it's clicked, that's when we get involved. We're not looking at it before. You know, if it's an unclicked link is a benign link, right? It's not going to do anything. But once it's clicked, that's when we'll step in and go, that's good or bad. And we make that determination. But we are a privacy-focused organization. And we are very, very proud of that. That's why the financial institutions are coming to us, because we are not putting that at compliantary risk. We're not putting them at data risk. We're managing the data as they need to manage it for their customer base.
Yeah.
So I really want to emphasize that.
Great point, Richard. And I think that demo we just sort of illustrated, right, the importance of a privacy-centric approach, and we can actually do this all in the offline disconnected state. And that to a lot of the customers in the region, right? Because you're not always going to get good network connectivity, right, Richard, in this part of the world. So imagine an application, a finance application that needs to launch and then wait for connection to the backend to check for security, right? By the time it finishes, the user probably stopped using the app, right? So
it's like when you offload all your security to the cloud, ultimately, the first thing that any malicious application is going to do is turn off your internet connection or reroute your traffic.
Yeah.
And by us doing what we do and the way we do it, we're able to do the on-device determination with an advanced machine learning model that's delivered directly to the endpoint. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming towards the end of our presentation. We here at Zimperium, we secure mobile. That's what we do. That's what we focus on: your mobile applications, your mobile devices, your mobile employees. We're here to secure them. The Q&A box is open. If you have any questions, we are here with answers. If we don't have the answers, we'll get them to you later, I promise. If you have a question that follows up afterwards, do not hesitate to reach out to us on our social media. We're on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. Go ahead and reach out to us anytime on there. But I'll leave it open real quick before we end this in the session. It's always a fun part.
I think there is no, well, as far as I can see. And by the way, Richard, I can see there is a good representation from the different parts of the Asia region based on my read of the attendees. So it's been
some good names in there.
That's right.
Wonderful. Well, it doesn't look like we have any questions. So ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our time here, time with you. We really, really do thank you. Some information for us down there and below. There's our international phone number if you want to call us. I think that just goes to Pat's phone. I don't know. Email info@zimperium.com, as well as you can reach out to us anytime on social media or directly through our website. My name is Rich Melick. I appreciate it. Pat, say goodbye to the beautiful people.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. I hope it was something that you take away from protecting yourself, maybe your within personal life, and also you can recommend a solution in your organization or to your partners. Yeah. Thank you very much.
We look forward to talking to you. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.